What's happening, everybody? It's your man Dame D, and we're at DC. It's two mics up. Tuesday Blitz, and we are live. Having some fun. Uh, don't know what's going out and what's happening. We on this platform, so Sam and I just having a little fun, trying to kick this one into gear. But I thank you all for joining us this Tuesday night. Sam, Big
Yes,
A,
sir.
what's happening, my brother? How we feeling tonight?
Well, I'm feeling good. You know what I'm saying? It's a good weekend on my behalf. I don't know about everybody else.
Well,
We'll probably get into those details in a minute.
Well, yeah, because I was going to ask you to start with your weekend. I know you had a lot of stuff going on, and I see
Right.
Big Tex is back. He's
Yes,
joining us tonight.
absolutely.
So talk about your weekend, man. What went on for you this weekend?
Well, first off, my daughter graduated basic training, so I was out of Fort Sill, Oklahoma, to go ahead and see that. And I came back home just in time. Watched a UFC match this weekend, or matches this weekend.
Right.
So there was a lot going on. I saw Whitaker get his jaw cracked like he was guest starring in the Nutcracker. That was, man.
I was tough, bro. Tough.
I was looking like, why he tapped out so early? And then I saw the pictures. I was like, okay, that's why.
Yeah,
That's exactly what happened right there.
I didn't catch it. All I caught was the same thing with the pictures. I was like, whoa, what happened? What happened, bro?
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was vicious, man. I couldn't believe what happened. What else happened? Texas won. That was a close game against Vandy.
Yep.
Packers won, of course. I know we're about to get into that.
Yep.
And it was a good weekend of basketball, too.
Mm-hmm.
I think before we get started, there's one thing that we need to address.
Please, go right ahead.
That goddamn statue of D Wade.
Yeah. Horrible. Straight horrible, bro.
Let's speak on that for a minute. Yeah, so
what was that?
I don't know. He said that he had a part in it, you know what I'm saying, when it came to the creativity. So that's your fault, bro. Like, I don't
Yeah, I look, bro. I don't know if that was like for Halloween or what, because it was real scary.
Right.
And look, I love D Wade, man. I really do. I love him as a basketball player and everything. But like that statue, bro, and like you said, to find out that he actually played a creative role.
Yeah.
Man, leave that to the professionals, bro. Mm-hmm. That was not fire. It was not fly. It's horrible. It's scary.
Hey, you saw how I just took a sip of something? I think he had 2 or 3 of them, and he was like, hey, it's all right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It looks immaculate, no, sir, that was incorrect.
Yeah, that was garbage, man. I don't even know how you could even sign off on something like that, man. It was just it was terrible. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So I'm with you. I think he could have saved the Heat money. He could have saved the city of Miami money. It was just horrible.
Absolutely.
Well, you spoke of the NBA. And that just got me, been watching the NBA. And one of the things that just dawned on me, just watching and what's been going on, like, no Kawhi Leonard. Like is it time, like, we really again, right? So is it time that we move on past Kawhi? And do we even still keep in the conversation of, at one time he was considered or thought to be considered, one of the greatest?
Right.
Like, do we just move on past that now? Because we haven't seen him, man, really play ball seriously in the better part of 3 years. So do we move on or not?
I mean, I've been moved past it. Okay. Like, if I'm being honest, like, let's be claro, it's a little bit challenging because there's so many expectations year in, year out. So you're kind of like in this waiting pattern. And I really feel like it's expired now. So I think as an organization that the Clippers need to go ahead and move on. So I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, looking at how they're looking in the West right now. I mean, it's early. They're in 5th place,
right?
So it seems like they have moved on without him. So I just think that they need to just sit there and continue. And if I'm building with the premise that he's not going to return next season. So
I would have to agree, because I think at this point, not only not returning, I think it's time to seriously consider, retirement at this point. And I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I don't want to accuse anybody of money grab or whatever, or what the contractual situation is. But watching Paul George go, and he's like another one, in Philly now. He moved on and he hasn't played yet. So these guys are older now.
Right.
And I'm looking at the money that, the NBA is paying out. I understand they're stars, but as a fan, it's not really a value add because it doesn't make me even want to go to the arena. Let's say if they come into town, and B is just like, okay, now I'm getting to a point. Well, let me look at the other stars, the other young stars that are coming up, and appreciate what they're bringing to the NBA. And do you think there's a way the NBA can fix this? I know they're trying to come down on the Sixers for one, but is there a way that we regulate this, or because tickets are not cheap,
which is true.
How does that work? How do we regulate that?
I don't think that there's any. I mean, like, this is tough because I just think back to Greg Popovich when he was resting his players. That's kind of like where everything started. Right. And now you have, like you said, you have these matchups, and maybe it's a small market, and you're expecting to see these big players come.
Right.
And like the night before, you hear that, LeBron's going to be out. And I get it. LeBron's a little bit older, but I'm just throwing that out as a reference. But you got these top tier players that you're expecting to come to your city and you watch play, and they don't even show up. So that's when I say it becomes a little bit challenging right there. So I don't think that, and I think that the NBA is at the capacity now that they don't even have to worry about it, because you were right. You brought up these big contracts that they have, but that's because, the media outlet has spread out even further. Their reach has become further, so they could pay these players, these 4-year, $150 million contract, and he maybe averaged like 2 points and an assist a game or something like that.
Right.
It happened, I want to say like 3 years ago, when the first TV deal came out. And I remember, I can't even think of any other names right now, but I remember how they were pushed out. And I'm just like, who is this? Who's getting this 5-year, $165 million contract?
Right.
But that's just the posture that the NBA is at. So I think the only way to regulate it is if the ratings go down.
Right.
Because now it's like, hey, we need our star players to show face, so we get that revenue back. But like I said, they're at a posture right now. It's like, who cares?
And that part, I feel that sometimes it's like, it's gotten to be so big, and it's such a global thing now. And then you have it's definitely become more of a predominantly Euro influx over the last 10 to 15 years. And it does feel like, it's being catered more globally, and to those though that are here in the States, we're being overlooked. Ticket prices keep going up, contracts keep getting bigger. These new stadiums or whatever now are being built, and separate of, now they're more sports complex type, where you can go dinner, dance, movie, like a whole thing, and
sports media, entertainment, arena.
Right. So I just feel like and I don't know, when does the bubble burst, or does it ever burst? In the sense of where it returns to some type of norm for us as the fan, to be able to go out and see these guys play and really enjoy it. And it's to be seen. But while we're talking to the NBA, before we get into the NFL and college, we talked about it last week. Are there any teams? I know you're a Mavs fan. Are there any teams out west that you really feel can really challenge, or really have a chance to really come out of the West and get into the finals? And I know it's early, but just throwing it out there while we're talking about it.
I'm nervous about OKC because they're still a young, growing squad right there.
Right.
Of course, the Mavericks. Lakers is actually doing good, but like I said, they're more of a first half season team.
Right.
So we'll see what happens, pre All-Star game, like around January time frame. Then we'll look. But I I mean, JJ Redick got something going on over there.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Quite special. I'm surprised too. So that's why I kind of got him on my radar. Health is going to be a big concern when it comes to the Lakers. We already know that, especially with Anthony Davis. What is LeBron James' workload going to be like? How much are they going to keep on gassing up Bronny? Like, he should have been in the G League a long time ago.
Well, they finally made that move, though. So thank God. He's going to be going back and forth. Thank goodness, because he's not ready.
Yeah, we'll probably see him come tournament time. So
cup time.
Give him a month or two. Yeah. I'm really interested to see Minnesota because I think that they're starting to show a couple of kinks right now. Yeah. Like I said, I think the trade for Gobert, for Randall, and DiVincenzo, I could get into that name wrong, but I don't think that was a good. I mean, Cat. I'm saying Gobert because I felt like he should have been the one.
Right, but you said that a couple of times. You're not a big fan of the big man.
I'm not sold on that move, but we'll see what happens with how is Minnesota going to bounce back and become that name. What is Memphis going to do? You know what I'm saying? Like we're 2 years removed from John Morant's debacle.
That's a good point. I totally forgot about John's return. Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
I think he's hurt right now too. So that's concerning. Like you're 2 seasons back into ball play, and like I don't know, it seems a little bit tarnished now. So I just want to know how that's going to be for the rest of the season too. So there's a couple of eye catchers right there. West is, I mean, we already know what the West is. The West is going to be more, it's tough. Like, when we get to the East, it's like, Cleveland's still around, Boston is still the king. So we're just going to sit there and dethrone them. Miami, I see Lonzo is out here balling and everything too. You know what I'm saying? Lonzo and Levine. He's back too. Yeah, so the Bulls could be a prominent threat. It kind of trickles down after that. So
I think it's definitely Boston is the king of the mountain. And then it's kind of a toss up. I think in the East, like you said. I think the East is going to be interesting because everybody's really fighting for second. Basically, just to avoid Boston until you get to the conference championship. But I think it'll definitely be interesting. And I want to take a minute. I want to say hello to everybody. Thank you, Lance, and Cunningham, and I see Mother Doris in the background and a few others. Thank you for taking time out to join us tonight, man. We're gonna have a little fun.
What's going on,
yeah. We down at Rocky Mount. We hitting North Carolina, showing up. So I appreciate you all. Enjoy the show. Drop any comments, any questions that you may have while we're here. We'll do our best to answer it, and if we can't, we'll gig on it or something. We'll figure out something as we go on. So I want to say congratulations too on baby girl's graduation. I know that's a big step, moving in the right direction. And she, like you, she's in the Army, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Army Reserves. So
Army Reserves. Okay.
Yeah, still going to school and everything, but she wanted to get a little extra cash for college and everything. So
I'm not mad at that. We're gonna open up. The reason why I said we're gonna open up, we didn't open up with Army this week, but we decided that we would give Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, and Navy some love. At the time when they went up against each other, number 12 Notre Dame against number 14 Navy, and man, this one wasn't even close.
No.
But I'm going to let you take the floor and take the lead first in this dance. So what was your take on the Notre Dame Navy game?
Well, it's tough because you look at the schedule that Navy had so far, and it's no knock against them. You think about I think they're in Conference USA or something like that too. So I mean, it's kind of what you expect. You still going, even though Notre Dame is independent, they're still like one of those elite, Power 5 schools, D1 schools. So they were just outmatched when you look at it, especially with the performance. So I'm not bummed. One, it's Navy, so go Army all day. But at the same time, there's still going to be a talk. They're still bowl eligible. So let's not get it twisted. I still think they're still up for their conference title. Mm-hmm. So there's still a lot of ball that's left to be played for Navy. The question is what Army is going to do for the remainder of the season too. I mean, we still got to play Air Force. The Commander's Cup doesn't count, but right now they just put the Golden Knights, in that forefront. So I still think that, and especially when you look at last season that the Navy had, I think that was the first time in a long time that they had like a sub 500 winning season. Right. So, I mean, they're still making waves right now. And they're, like I said, they'll still be at a bowl game. Which one, we don't know. But they'll be on one of them.
There'll be one. And I think for me, the biggest thing, I was surprised, honest, from just going back and watching some of Navy this year. Like, they really didn't turn the ball over at all until this game. And they lost 5, in one game. And the second aspect that I was really looking at was, we know Navy's going to come hard with the run game.
Right.
And I mean, they were basically stifled, and Notre Dame really came ready defensively to really stifle, any hope of a run game. And like I said, with the turnovers, the game was over really at halftime. It was 31-7 at the half. So it wasn't really like it was a threat. I was expecting a little bit more of a, I know it's Notre Dame and I know it's Navy, but I was expecting a little bit more of a competitive game, just kind of looking at the way they both teams were playing. But I got to give it to Notre Dame, man. They just they quarterback, amazing. It's tough sailing for Navy, and like you said, I still think they'll be bowl eligible, and we'll see them in the postseason. But Notre Dame really took a quick bump up, and it's going to be. I'm not a big Notre Dame fan, but it's going to be interesting now the way that the season is starting to kind of unfold, if you will. It's going to be really interesting on how things turn out. And then, we move to the SEC, home of your Texas Longhorns. But we're going to talk about the other Texas A&M. And they went up against LSU. And that was another one that I'm a little surprised. And what was your take on that?
I'm nervous about A&M. I'm not going to lie. I think, out of that conference, like, it's a huge wake-up call. I feel like A&M is tired of being the last man out. I think they're a little pissed off, too, especially since Texas and Oklahoma came in the fold because they were trying to run away from the Big 12 because of those two, because they were getting all the shine, and now they're back. Here they are in the SEC now. So I feel like A&M has something to prove right now. And they're showing it on the field. I mean, like, 38-23, and I know that the score probably not is indicative as what it should be. But I mean, they were relentless the whole game. So I think they're definitely they're the ones to watch. And I mean, it's not like offensively they did anything. I feel as if their defense just really turned up. So
I think for me, watching that game, like when I really look at it, just kind of looking at my notes. Like in the first half of the game, like for me, it was like A&M had no heartbeat, bro. It was just like, where you at? They gave up 17 points, had less than 150 yards from scrimmage, and they turned the ball over twice by half, before halftime. And LSU was kind of looking like, they were gaining their old, that old form that they had when they beat, Ole Miss a couple of weeks ago. And then second half is like the whole flip script, or flip the script rather, and they just had a breakthrough, man, and just kind of, when the coach turned to the other quarterback, the freshman, I think that's when you really seen the game change. And A&M, man, it's tough, and I think, like you said, it's going to be kind of scary, just looking at the way the SEC is unfolding. We're talking about Texas A&M. We're looking at like Vandy showing up. Texas coming in, kicking behind, like it's just
still got Georgia, Tennessee, Bama. Like we're not even skimming the surface, and that's what I'm saying. Like the SEC is going to run the table as far as like that 1 through 12. You know what I'm saying? The question is just where they're going to fit at.
Right, and that goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of the season. Like when we talked, I was like, at least 6. I can at a minimum, I see at least 6 can potentially come from just the SEC alone. which is bananas when you think about it. I mean, we're talking about 12 playoff spots, and if one conference is dominating half, I mean, it's just bananas. And like, again, do we rethink how the playoffs are done? Like, it's leading into that type of conversation. If, let's say, I know this is the first playoff, but if this becomes the norm, do we rethink even how this is done? When the SEC, man, it's a powerhouse conference that, I mean, it's just wrecking NCAA. NCAA.
I feel like we're missing the Pac-12 because they diffuse. I know that they're coming back either 2025 or 2026.
Right.
But a lot of their teams defected to either the Big 10, Big 12. Some of them eased in the Mountain West. So NIL is a big thing too. So just as long as these schools continue to pay to get these doggone players, I mean, and everyone wants to be in the SEC. I've been hearing that for years. If there's a conference that you want to sit here and play in, it's the SEC. It's just wide open now. So like a lot of players have that opportunity to sit there and play in-house now. Yeah. I don't need to go if I'm from Texas, I don't need to go all the way to Alabama because I actually got 3 teams in my area that I could go to if I wanted to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just, until, I don't know, until the Big Ten, and they're still dominant too. I mean, you still got Ohio State. You got Oregon involved in there. Yeah. Indiana is a sleeper right now. There ain't nobody talking about.
Nobody talking about Penn State either. I mean, Penn State is having a quiet season. So, I mean, it's true, but the national landscape has really become the SEC. I mean, like you said, the Pac-12 going, ACC, nobody even talks about really anymore. Those are your Power 4, or really Power 3. I mean, Big 12 is still out there. And again, the Big 12 has been decimated by its change. And speaking of the Big 12, what do you think about Colorado? What Deion has kind of put in place. Last season, not to say a laughing stock, but they didn't fall off a cliff. It was like they jumped off a cliff. But now this season, I still see kind of helter-skelter play on both sides of the ball, but they've been finding ways to win. So I'm curious to know what's your take on that.
I mean, shoot, what can you say about them? I mean, I think Deion has the blueprint for now. And I think that's my biggest concern because everything evolves around either Shedeur or Hunter. Yeah. So what happens when they leave? You're 2 perennial players. Like, how do you bounce back from that? So I think the offseason and recruiting is going to be big for him.
Right.
But I think as far as like this season, he's already playoff eligible or bowl game eligible. I'm sorry. Right. So the bigger question is like, can you win the Big 12 conference? Because that's going to be a guaranteed buy-in into the playoffs right there. So if I was Deion, that's what I would be gunning for right now.
Yeah.
But I think it's a wake-up call because I wasn't expecting him to win no more than 4 games this season. I honestly felt like it was going to be a repeat of last year. So for him to turn it around, he beefed up his coaching staff defensively. You see Warren Sapp over there. I think you got to kind of get away from all the theatrics, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're treating it more or less. But I mean, like, all colleges are doing that now. Yeah. I guess it just stands out more because we see, you see your rappers, you know what I'm saying? You see your R&B artists, right there on the sidelines and everything. Right. And I don't want it to take away from this could be greatness that we're seeing right now, producing out of Colorado. And I just don't want that to be taken away from the actual players, and the team right now. So.
That makes a very good point. I mean, the hoopla and the hype that comes with it. Yeah, let's just see the football game. Let's see the football players without all the hoopla. I get it, man. It's prime time. I'm happy for him.
It's what he's about.
That's what he's about. Exactly. Yeah. I'm happy for him, man. He's doing his thing in Colorado. I just hope they sustain that type of success. And like you said, the future is going to be the question when both his sons, Shedeur especially, and Hunt and the young man Travis, they move on and they go to the pros. I think that's where you're going to find, I don't want to say the ilk of a man, but the ilk of a coach and what type of product he produces after that. So I'm with you.
Yeah. Because when you look at it, he's been coaching his son since high school.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When he was out in Texas and then he went to Jackson State and, now, they're in Colorado together. So he has that growth with them. Like, are you going to be able to take a 3 to 5 star quarterback and do that same type of coaching and nurturing and developing, with him.
Right. No, those are great points. So, shout out to Coach Prime, wishing him and the Buffs a lot of luck. We're gonna change lanes real quick, and we're gonna get into the NFL this week. And I know last week we talked about it. I'm sitting here looking at, my notes and everything from last week. We put the Bears and the Commanders on the top of the pile as this week's game of the week to discuss. And man, whew,
it delivered.
It really did deliver, man. And wow, I mean, just the heartbreak. Bears fans keep crying. That was a heartbreak. And man, the Commanders showed up and showed out. Lionel Richie came out. So it's going to be interesting. For what happens next. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what's going to happen.
Who would have thought in 2024 that the Washington Commanders would be in first place in the NFC East? Because I did not have that on my bucket list right there.
Right.
Jaden Daniels is the truth. I mean,
all day long.
What can we sit here and say about him?
Right.
Minus what all the accolades that he's receiving right now. And it was a really huge defensive game. I know that there was a lot of penalties on both sides. Stevenson from the Chicago Bears, that doggone safety, like you have to continue to play the game until the ball hits or until that clock hits 0. And he got a little overzealous sitting there and hoopla with the doggone fans and everything that he wasn't coherent to what was happening when it was too late. And then you got to look at the tip drill too. You know what I'm saying? You don't tip the ball up in the air. You got to spot that joint down, and it was very fortunate that the Commanders' tight end was right there. And that thing just hit him in his doggone hands like a soft loaf of bread. And I'm just like, you know what I'm saying? My whole household was in shock and awe. Like we watched it down to the final drive, and I was left speechless. I was like, oh my goodness, like what more can you say right there? So my hat's off to them. I said it beforehand, as far as the NFC North, like this second half or the second leg is when it's going to get more challenging for that division. And you look at the Bears and their kinks are becoming a little bit more prevalent too. You know what I'm saying? Still a little bit skittish on defense. Caleb is a little bit indecisive, a little bit quick. And I get it. He's a rookie and everything, right? But I said it beforehand, like the Bears, I feel Bears is another one of those teams that went all out to make sure that all the accommodations was in this young man's hands. I don't put it much on him. Like I said, it was just sloppy ball play at the end, or I don't want to say sloppy, more like a careless ball play at the end, as far as awareness and everything. But, like I said, my hat's off to to Washington, man.
Yeah, without question. I'm with you on that. And it's going to be interesting because just watching the game, the Bears basically led the game for the better part of 59 minutes. Let's just call it what it is, right?
Yeah.
And Caleb Williams, man, he drove the ball on that last drive for them to go up. And then you watch the play, man, like Jaden Daniels, man, it seemed like he was back there scrambling forever.
He was.
And
he definitely was.
He threw up that arc of a pass, man, Hail Mary, and it fell into Noah's hands, like Noah's Ark, if you will. And they walk off with that. And then, look, the dude, man, the Bears corner, like that dude, he would be benched, fine, like he'd be serving water for weeks, man. Just the antics and the way that he was acting on the side, before that final play, man, I'll be benching that dude. I'll be having him serving water, something for the rest of the season, because that's unacceptable. And just really, if I had to say, like, again, I know they're a division rival, but Jaden Daniels was the hero, man. Not only, we didn't expect him to play, with a rib injury, first of all.
Right.
And then he completes, 21 of 38 for 326 yards. And then he throws in another 52 yards rushing, and looking at the stats, 51 of those yards came after contact. And this is a little guy, man, playing quarterback, be running around like that. So I was just really impressed with the overall outing. And look, like you said, in your division, man, Chicago just had their 3-game winning streak snapped. So, and they really came out with a dud, really. I mean, 172 yards of offense, period, before the fourth quarter started. And they really didn't get on the board until DeAndre Swift scored. So, it was a good game. It was a good battle. 2 young quarterbacks. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays with Chicago moving forward, like in your division, and with division play. And this game really sets up, the Commanders, man. They top of the heap in the NFC East, and we talked about it before. There's really nothing in the way of stopping them. Dallas is garbage, my Giants are garbage, and it's just really them in Philly. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, moving forward.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, time will tell, but like I said, like they're leading the pack right now. So if I'm Philly, I'm not really concerned about the other 2 teams but if I'm Philly, I'll be more concerned like where do I sit, because I feel like it's either you have to win that division or bust. Right. Because I really feel like we talked about the NFC North so much, and I'm not trying to gas them up because the Packers are in there, but I do see 3 teams. If there's any 3 teams or any division that's gonna have 3 teams in the playoffs, I really feel like that's gonna be them. So they got to step it up.
Yeah, I agree. So it's going to be interesting, to see how all that turns out. Then our next game we had Bills against the Seahawks. Curious to know how you see that one, how that game played out for you.
I was riding high on Seattle for a while. You saw the frustration with Geno Smith. But like Josh Allen, that guy, man, like I told you, like he's guaranteed. I told you either he's going to do it with his legs or he's going to do it in the air.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And like, I mean, he had 283 yards, 24-34. He did have 1 pickle. James Cook showed up, you know what I'm saying, with 2 touchdowns, 111 yards.
Right.
They were pretty much having their way with doggone Seattle. And that frustration started showing, or it was more prevalent as the game continued.
Right.
And I think that became an issue too. So, I mean, the Bills still have, they're good. They're good for the season, but then the playoffs come, you know what I'm saying? And I put them in that same category as the Ravens. When are we going to break that cycle? Because one way or another, you have to get past the Chiefs. Yeah. So the question is, who's going to be that team that's going to sit there and surpass them? So, as far as Seattle goes, I really feel like their division is in their lap. But now you have to worry about the Niners getting healthy.
Agreed.
You know what I'm saying? Because they've been depleted, and slowly and surely, some of their key players have been showing back up. But, like, they should be running the table right now. And it's like, where's that fight at? Yeah. So that's what I'm more or less concerned about with Seattle right now.
I agree. I mean, that one, you kind of hit it all on the head in a nutshell. There's really not much to talk about. Josh Allen again, who I think is overrated. He comes out week after week and really does his thing. James Cook, he ran for $117, 2 touchdowns. The Bills were in control really throughout this entire game. And Seattle again came up, opportunity to really make some noise, came out with a dud. They rushed for only 32 yards in the game and scored their own touchdown really in garbage time. So the long and short of it, Seattle got outplayed and got out coached, and they really had no answer. So back drawing board, for Seattle and onward and upward, for the Buffalo Bills, right now the best team that's actually in New York. But they keep rolling. And next on the schedule we had, you had, your Packers taking on those Jaguars. And this one, man, was actually a lot closer than expected. But then too, we had the Jordan Love situation, which is kind of scary. So what's your take on your pack and the Jags and what they look like moving forward?
I don't know, because I'm still trying to figure, like, I got number 10 on right now, but I don't know which number 10 is going to show up.
Right.
And that makes it like, look, he's a gunner. He gives you that Brett Favre feel, but you got to play smart. You got to play smart to keep your team in the game. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm concerned with. And then I was looking at the game and I was like, well, if he's hurt, and I get it. You want to play till you can't play no more. But when do you get to the point that you become detrimental to your team? And I've been saying that. I actually been saying that since like week 5, since he came back, or week 6 is when he actually came back, because we had a bye in week 5. But it's like, we have Malik Willis. He's proven he has more of a winning record than doggone Jordan Love right now. So you have a sustainable security blanket. I'm happy that Josh Jacobs actually turned up and he had 127 yards, 2 touchdowns and everything. The defense is a little bit hurt right now. And you can see it because Trevor Lawrence threw over 300 yards. And I don't know. We went to a cover when we should have been in a man. For one, and that was pissing me off. I'm like, why are we in the zone right now, having these open pockets in the middle of the field, giving just that inking to doggone Jacksonville, like, this is available and for the win. You know what I'm saying? But if anything, I'm just glad we got a kicker. You know what I'm saying?
Finally, right?
Hey, look. Our kicker is 2-0 right now. McManus is 2-0 right now, so. Bless his heart, because I forgot the kid name, but if it was him, we'd probably be sitting at doggone 4-4 instead of 6-2.
Right. So. True. All I can say is, man, the game was closer. Thank goodness for coming in and really keeping you guys afloat. Like you said, Brandon McManus came in 2 weeks in a row. With the winning kick. When you guys needed it. You already said it, Josh Jacobs, man. He a beast, man. That was a great pickup for you guys. Honestly, I thought that was a bad move, but
I did too. Don't get me wrong.
Look, I thought Aaron Jones was it.
Yeah, me too. Exactly. I feel the same way, and I had that. Like, I was hurt, especially seeing him in the doggone Vikings uniform. I was like, you could have went anywhere else, to any other division. You could have even went over to the AFC. But I get it now, and Josh Jacobs is just a younger variant of him. I mean, he's 26 years old. So, I got it. So we're, I think we're in good hands right now, but like I said, second half is still a gauntlet. I mean, we played the Niners this weekend. So, what is that going to amount to? So I really feel like, as far as the North, that division is still up for grabs. So we'll see what happens with the actual divisional play.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't have nothing to say about the Jaguars. I mean, honestly, it's the Jaguars. I mean, whatever. Overrated with Trevor and everybody else. Next on the schedule, we had the Colts and Texans, and interesting game because again, another close game that I really didn't expect for it to be, and really Stroud just showed up. TJ Stroud, he threw the touchdown passes. Mixon, again, another beast of a pickup, for them. He ran for 102 yards and a touchdown. And I mean, I was doing some research, looking at my notes here. He's the first player in NFL history to have at least 100 yards rushing and a touchdown run 4 of his first 5 games, which is pretty impressive. CJ 285. The Texans take the lead in the South at 6-2. And really, Jason Richardson, man. I mean, I know, he came back from injury, but he was 10 for 32, man. I mean, that's just hideous. For 175 yards and a touchdown. And I really don't have much to say outside of Jonathan Taylor. They made the right move by now going to Joe Flacco. In my opinion, Joe Flacco at least keeps them, I think, more competitive. He spreads the ball around. He's more experienced, and they're still in the hunt. They're really only 2 games out. So if they can kind of right that ship, it could be more competitive in the second half, but right now the Texans all the way running that South Division.